Welcome to Beyond the Velvet Rope with Neil Oates Jr., the podcast that takes you on an extraordinary journey into the world of luxury service. Join us as we unlock the secrets, stories, and strategies behind exceptional experiences. From anticipating VIP needs to crafting unforgettable memories, we'll guide you on a path to service excellence in the realm of the affluent. Let's elevate your expertise and redefine the art of world-renowned service. Here's your host, Neil Oates Jr.
Welcome to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Today's guest is Tine Zekis, educator turned software engineer, international speaker, award-winning author, and the powerhouse behind Getting Black Women Paid and Your Audacity Coach. As a career and business coach, she helps mid-career Black women grow their income and impact, whether through bold career moves or purpose-driven entrepreneurship. Some of her clients have doubled their income from just one negotiation. Get ready, because she's here to help you claim what's already yours. Welcome Beyond the Velvet Rope, Miss Tine Zekis. How are you doing today, ma'am?
I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure. Now, selfishly, I am excited to hear what you have to say. Ladies and gentlemen, as we go beyond the velvet rope with Miss Tine Zekis, you all have heard some of the things I read off in her introduction, and I let her know before the show I did not send her any of the questions because we are getting the real lady right here. So, Tine, what's one thing that I didn't share in the intro that might benefit the audience just a little bit?
Absolutely. So I get this question a lot. People have never heard the name Tine. They're like, what is that? Where does it come from? Tine is actually short for Christine. So I went through life getting called Christina, Chris, all the things. And I was like, you know what? It's Tine. That's it.
Oh, so you just took it upon yourself. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to hear this lady here, what she has done. She says, I'm not going to take what the world gives me. I am going to change, and I'm going to dictate how I am addressed. And so already good stuff right off top, ma'am.
Oh, and there's also, there's also a story about the apostrophe. So
okay,
it's
come on.
Apostrophe Tine, because just Tine, that's tine, like the fork of, like a tine of a fork. And so I'm a Yoruba woman. My father's from Nigeria, and in Yoruba, your name usually has a prefix and a suffix. So my Yoruba name is Adebisi, and normally you go by either the prefix or the suffix. And when you go by the suffix, you often use the apostrophe before the end. So I did it with my English name as well. That's
okay. So Tine, I'm going to tell you something about me. I am originally from Alabama, and not all of the stereotypes, no interfamilial relationships here, but you're going to have to break this thing down for me because you're talking about software engineer, just a different way of thinking. So thank you for that. Now, I want to ask you, when did you go from Christine to Tine? And because I think it's important for us to know, at what point did you say, I'm not going to accept this, I'm going to start carving my own path?
Oh, I love that question. Well, in high school, it was just my best friends, my very small circle. We were all kind of calling each other by sort of the end of our names. And it was just sort of like an inside joke. But when I got to college, my next door neighbor was Christine. And I was like, I don't need that. So that was it. So anyone who knows me from before college calls me Christine typically. And anyone who knows me after that calls me Tine.
All right. Now, none of our business. And Tine, I do want to make this perfectly clear that you are not legally obligated to answer this next question. Okay. With your next door neighbor in college having the same name, were there ever any instances of mistaken identity where someone came to one of your doors looking for the other?
So honestly, not with her, but there was another light-skinned Black woman on my floor, and people would have whole conversations with me thinking I was her. And I didn't learn until, that happened freshman year. I didn't learn until senior year that kept happening to her the whole time in college. That people would come up to her being like, hey, Tine. And I had no idea.
So
We did not look alike.
okay. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't tell, we're going to have a lively, great, but also meaningful and impactful, necessary conversation here. And so, you mentioned high school, you and your friends calling each other by the ends of your names. But your story, Teen's story, starts in a high school math classroom. Right now, this
Yes.
isn't you in high school, but you being a teacher in a classroom,
Mhm.
feeling overworked, fair, underpaid, unacceptable. Take us back. What was going through your mind at that point, Teen, that made you say something has to change?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this. This is it's actually kind of a dark story. I um I was not built for the classroom. I can find 10 different ways to explain a math concept, but I only know one way to say don't talk when other people are talking, other than in certain cuss words or something. I did not have control over my classroom. And I was having regular panic attacks and vomiting. I lost 7 pounds in 5 days. And I'm going to tell you, I was a full time high school teacher with my own classroom for 6 school days.
Wait, hold on. Uh,
6 school days. I
Team,
went,
hold on one moment, ladies, and I'm thinking, I'm like, she endured this for 6 years. So wait, to be a teacher, you have to have some type of education, right?
I have a
Is
master's
this
in
what you went
education.
to? So you went to school for
I
this
have a
thing?
master's degree. And it wasn't until that, for that 2 year program, it wasn't until student teaching at the very end that I was like, ooh, I don't know. I don't know if this is it. I didn't even go into teaching right away. I was tutoring math. I've done a lot of teaching math. But eventually when I was like, okay, I got to do this, I'm going to get into the classroom. It was not for me. And it was my body constantly telling me. I
Hmm.
was on my way to school thinking, if I hit that median, I could go to the hospital instead of school. And that is when I knew this is not it, right? That I'm hurting myself, or I'm thinking about hurting myself instead of being in this place. So the first week was rough. I had a long weekend. I was like, I'm going to change up the layout of the classroom. I got all these different strategies. And I had a panic attack and threw up twice before first period. And I was like, I'm out.
Man.
That's it.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So how challenging was it? Because besides the physical part, how challenging is it to turn away from this thing that you've worked toward, and not necessarily that it was your identity, but professionally, this is where you were
Mm-hmm.
in this title and in this space, but then being in tune with this isn't 14. This
Yeah.
is not for me. This is not my path. Was it challenging for you to say, well, got to do something different, otherwise it might kill me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This was not even my first attempt to get into teaching. I knew I wanted to be a high school math teacher when I was in high school. I was tutoring the other kids. I I wanted to do this for, my whole life. And um but I got to undergrad and calculus kicked my butt. And I ran crying to the humanities. I majored in Black studies and psychology. I minored in music. I did everything else. And so my plan was, okay, I do still want to do this education thing, but you can't really get certified in Black studies or psychology to teach at
Mm-hmm.
the like K through 12 level. So I was
Right.
going to teach elementary school. And then I wanted to do research on race and education and become a professor. And when I was in my program, my first placement to observe was in a middle school math class. And I remembered all the reasons I wanted to teach math. So I ended up doing full time education at night, full time undergrad math during the day. Calculus and I had a rematch. I busted my butt to become a math teacher, and then it didn't work out. And yeah, it was very hard to make that decision. And, for me, I did have the support of my parents. It's not possible for everyone to say, I'm going to quit this job and not have a plan.
Right.
And I specifically remember my dad, he had helped me like put up all the posters and set up the classroom. And he was right back there helping me take them down, a
Just
week
six
later.
6 days in, 6 days in. Pops is like, hey, my baby is around here. And so would you just And because I know we're going to get to everything that you're doing, but could
Hmm.
you just talk about the impact of having that support? Because many people might find themselves where they're trapped in their career.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that not everyone can say they have the support of maybe mom and dad, but just having
Hmm.
a support system in general. And then this is going to really lead into some deeper conversation that we're going to have. But talk about that support system where like they've been there with you, but
Hmm.
now dad is seeing what it's doing to his baby, right? And
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh no." Like you making the realization, making the decision first. But now
Hmm.
he's like, "Hey, if I'm with you, I'm with you." What
Yeah.
did that feel like to know that you had someone in your corner?
I mean, it's everything. Because for me, I grew up wanting to make my parents proud. And my grandmother was a teacher. My brother is a teacher. His wife is a teacher. There's a lot of that in my family. And so for me to say, this isn't my path, and for them to turn around and say, we support you was huge. And I will say this, yes, I lucked into that family, right? I didn't decide who to be born to, but you can build your own support system,
Yeah.
even if it's not coming from the places you might typically find it, right? You can build up your network, your friendships. You can find people in your life who are going to support you. I call it your hype squad, right? You can find those people who are going to be in your corner and who know how great you are and say, like, if this isn't the path, I know that you can apply those skills somewhere else.
Awesome. So Teen, here's where that happened. So 6 days. Nope, this is not for me. Having dark thoughts, and so something had to change, right?
Absolutely.
So we come in now, and I read in your intro, software engineer. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yeah.
Now that is not high school math teacher.
It's a big pivot.
How do we get from overworked, underpaid, stressed out, physically dealing with this, mentally going to some dark places, to getting into software engineer? How does that happen?
Yeah. Well, while I was trying to figure things out, I still needed something. So I ended up being a long-term sub at my old high school. There were 5 math teachers having babies. So I was just going through all of their parental leaves. I don't know what was in the water over there.
Don't drink it, T. Bring your water
Right.
from home. Don't drink the water. Come on.
So one of those teachers, in addition to teaching math, also taught AP computer science. So I was like staying a chapter ahead of the kids, trying to figure this stuff out. And I realized, oh, I actually like this coding thing. And I think the thing that stood out for me was all of the kids could have a different answer to the same question and be right. Like in math, it's like, okay, did everyone get 12? Like, I didn't realize there was creativity in programming. So I did a boot camp to become a software developer, and that was my next path. And through that career pivot, I had some insecurities, some imposter syndrome around, I'm going to be joining a field that I'm going from a very female dominated field, very like social justice driven, to a very white male dominated field.
Yeah.
And I knew that pay gap existed. And I was worried that, as a career changer, how am I going to, advocate for myself in salary negotiations when I'm so brand new? But what spurred me on was, well, I'm not going to find out that the white guy next to me who has the same level as me is getting paid more. So I negotiated every time. And I tried to
Okay. So
leverage that career change too. Sorry, I didn't mean to
no
interrupt you.
worries.
I went into my interview for that first developer job and I said, I'm a developer who speaks human. I can break down a technical concept for someone who doesn't come from that background and meet people where they are, which maybe those folks who were building computers in high school, maybe they don't have that skill.
Now, I know that you had some success and you talked about the negotiating and even for that first developer position that you had. But let's back up because you mentioned the imposter syndrome going into
Yeah.
this white male dominated field industry, and you're saying, okay, I enjoy it, I want to be here, but maybe I don't belong here.
Yeah.
And then that leads into your mission, your purpose, your drive that you're doing now. Explain imposter syndrome to our audience, what experience Teen had with that, and how maybe some of the Black women that you work with, how they are experiencing that and how they're overcoming imposter syndrome, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. So imposter syndrome is basically just the feeling that you don't belong where you are. Maybe you didn't earn your success, you were just lucky. Um, It's just sort of that feeling that what you're doing isn't quite good enough. And honestly, the people who experience it the most are those really high achievers, the people who are out there killing it, and then they're secretly thinking, I don't know if I should be here. And one thing that I focus on specifically with Black women is it's not, it sounds really clinical, right? Imposter syndrome. It's not a like medical diagnosis. And to me, there's not even actually anything wrong with you. You're just aware. The systems around you are constantly telling you you don't belong.
Yeah.
So you're just observing that, right? And feeling the impact of it. So, and that's something I call actually imposter systems, right? The structures that are in place that are built to tell us every day that we don't belong. And so I always start with like, you're not the problem, but in our interactions, we're not going to tear down the patriarchy and white supremacy and capitalism and all those things. So in the meantime, you still need to live your life. So you need to build some strategies to recognize those kinds of thoughts when they come up and to overcome them so that you can speed up that cycle each time and get through it faster.
Okay, so in that, and I know from doing my research and looking and reading up on Tine Zekis, I know that a big part of what your mission and I'm going to say the foundation is giving Black women permission to dream, and not just dream small dreams, right? Mm-hmm. You're encouraging them, you're mandating that Black women just dream bigger without apology, right? So why do you think so many Black women especially need permission in the first place? And not necessarily need permission, but need you. They need to look in the mirror and say, this is me. This is my sister. This is who I want to be. She's giving me permission to not only dream, but dream bigger without apology.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of it is because we've been conditioned to, always be grateful, not rock the boat. Not
grateful for the little bit that we have, right?
Right,
just
right.
Whatever,
I'm just grateful to even have a job, right? I'm grateful for the scraps you've offered, right? And so many people will talk to me about, well, I don't want to seem greedy. What's greedy about asking for the fair compensation for what you're providing? But so many of us have been conditioned to make everyone else comfortable, to make sure that we're not taking up too much space in the room. We're not coming across as that angry Black woman. Right. So we're constantly fed these, well, you got to work twice as hard to get half as much. And we just accept that. Black women are the most educated cohort, which means we have the most student debt. And yet we're among the least paid. Right. And so we know so many of us are not just qualified, maybe overqualified for the job, but we're always told, well, that's only going to get you half as much. And you got to be grateful for even that. Yeah. And so some of it's going to be unlearning that and really telling ourselves, no, I already know that because I walked into this room, I already know I've done more than most of the people here. And so I should be rewarded for it.
All right. So, Tine, we're talking about what might be the typical experience for many Black women. That was not necessarily your experience. We heard going into this software engineer industry and field. You mentioned very first negotiation. You're saying, hey, here's what I believe I'm worth. Here's why I'm going to justify that. I can actually communicate my value. And so then that's not where it ended. We had a number of raises in the first handful of years. What did you learn about yourself that you later applied with your clients and your customers when you're saying, hey, go in here and ask for your value, what you're worth? What did you learn for those first few ask and negotiations for yourself?
Yeah, well, I do want to say what the numbers are. So I doubled.
See, look, I didn't want to mind. I didn't want to get in your pocket, girl. Come on, go ahead and tell people. Talk that talking, lady.
So when I was a teacher, I was making $43,000 a year, which we could have a whole other show about how we underpay teachers, but that's that's not for today. I doubled that teaching salary in 2 years, and I more than tripled that teaching salary in less than 5 years. And it's not because I didn't have imposter syndrome. It's because I did the ask anyway. I'm a speaker, and I was at an event with this incredibly engaging speaker who is just such a natural and up there, just owns the room. And someone asked her, what's your secret? And she said, wear black. It hides the sweat stains. Like, you can be scared and still do it. right? And so for me, it was, okay, I'm feeling this fear and I'm pushing through it anyway. And then each time I do it, now the next time I know, well, I did it last time, I could do it this time. And I wanted to make sure that other women knew that too. And so that's actually when I decided to write the book, which is Overcoming Imposter Syndrome at Work, the Black Woman's Guide to Conquer Perfectionism, Stop Overthinking, and Thrive in Your Career.
So let's go straight into the book because that's where we were going. Talk about the book, and if you would outline some of the, I'm going to say, practical things that women can do if they find themselves where you were.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think the first thing is just recognizing when you're starting to have those thoughts. I mean, we speak to ourselves in a way that we would never talk to a friend. We wouldn't even talk to our enemy.
So I was just about to say that, Tine. We wouldn't even talk to our enemies the way we speak to ourselves, right? On a consistent basis. And it's a regular thing.
Absolutely. And that is training ourselves to feel that as truth, to feel those things that we're saying about ourselves as truth. And so one of the things is recognizing those thoughts and interrupting them intentionally and saying, wait a minute, how would I, if my best friend came to me with this problem, what would I tell her? Would I tell her, oh, that was so dumb. What a dumb mistake. Of course not. I would say, I can understand why you did that. Here's the learning opportunity. And I know you can do it next time. Right. We are so hard on ourselves. And so one of those things is just recognizing those thoughts when they come, interrupting them and replacing them with something positive. Another is recognizing what kinds of things tend to trigger those thoughts in us. There are different kinds of imposter syndrome. Some of us really hide in perfectionism, right? I'm going to work on this presentation until it is well beyond what other people would have thought was good enough because I need it to be perfect because any mistake is going to let people know that I don't deserve to be here, right? Some of us, we want to become the expert in everything. We're getting all the certifications, we're getting all the degrees, we're getting all of the deep knowledge on everything because I can't speak to it unless I know everything about it. Right. And so it's about recognizing, what are the situations where I tend to engage in this behavior? And then what are my strategies? Maybe it's, logging my accomplishments so I can go back and point to those later and say, oh, no, wait, I did that. Oh, and I got this great feedback about it. Right. What are the compliments people give me? And then it's even practicing when someone gives you a compliment. Do you say thank you and shut up? Or do you say, oh, no, it was a team effort. Oh, it wasn't that hard. Oh, it wasn't this. No, you did that thing. And even if it wasn't a lot of effort to you, that's because you've honed your skills over time, right? And so, yeah, that was good. Thank you. Just practicing that, right?
and leave it right there. Say,
yeah.
you doggone right. That was good. Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Tine, I do want to, so you are a big proponent of getting what you're worth, of asking what you're worth, but you also believe that we must have a skill set. Right. So you're not saying if you're not worth it, go ask for it. That's not what Tine is saying, ladies and gentlemen. What she is saying is that, hey, increase your skills, but then don't take a penny less than what you are worth and what your value is. So you're big on the concept of skills as currency, right? How can someone start identifying or mapping their skills to higher paying roles without going back to school? Because you're talking about Black women being in student debt. So you're not saying you have to go back and get more degrees, right? You have to go back and maybe get a certification. But skills as currency, what's a path or a route that I'm going to say specifically Black women can follow to move themselves into higher paying roles?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I'm so glad you asked this. I wasn't actually planning on offering this, but I do have something that I can.
Now, hold on. Now, if you don't want to give it away, don't give it.
But it's a resource that I have that I would love to offer to your audience. So, the first thing is always to assess your current skills, right? It might be the case that you already have everything you need. In fact, it's very likely the case that you already have everything you need. And so it's about going through maybe all of your previous and current roles and seeing, okay, what skills did I use during each of these things? And what were the things I enjoyed? What are the things I don't really want to be doing in my next role? Like really assess everything you've done in those roles. And then think about, okay, well, what kinds of things do people come to me for advice on? right? What are the things that people are always asking me for help with? Okay, what are the skills associated with that as well? And then you want to start doing research on the kinds of roles that are out there in higher paying industries that highlight those skills you already have. And then you can start to identify, okay, maybe there are a few gaps. Maybe I need to do a free online course, right? YouTube University on,
Let's go. Come on.
hone this skill, right? But for the most part, you already have so much of what you need. And the reminder that the job description is not a checklist that you have to have 100% of. If you already can do 100% of the things on that list, that job is not
It's
advanced enough
beneath
for
you
you.
already. Come on, let's go.
Then you need to be applying for the next level, right? So I think about it as, when I'm looking at the responsibilities, is this something I want to do? Is this something I want to grow into? Something I want to learn? You don't have to already be there, done with it. But so I do have a skills analysis checklist that kind of walks you through this process of, kind of analyzing what you already have. How can I use my network to find more things, maybe ask my friends and family, what are the things you think I'm really good at, and then start to do that market research. So I'll grab the link for that for you to share in the show notes as well.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that link to that resource is going to be in the show notes from Miss Tine Zekis. You're going to want to make sure that you get that. And I'm going to speak especially directly to my Black women. We have one of your sisters here giving you the game. So do not miss the opportunity to take advantage of this. Don't take it for granted. So now, Tine, I want to go into a place where we might have some of our audience who's here and they are afraid to start, right? Because you're saying do an analysis, do an inventory, see that you might already have the skills. They might, and you're the optimist, or I'm even going to say the realist. You just believe. So we might have to borrow your belief in ourselves. So you're saying you might already have every skill you need. You might have enough. You just need to act on that. But what do you say to that lady, that woman who is here and maybe through the programming or through the system where they're looking at themselves and they could look at an entire dossier of information and skills and certification and experience and still not believe in themselves? What do you say to her today?
Well, first of all, I want to say to that sister, I see you. It's hard. It's hard to take those messages every single day and to not internalize them. So, I understand where you're coming from. And there's someone out there who will see it in you if you can't see it in yourself. And so, it's about building up that community, talking to your friends and loved ones. And if you can't find it there, maybe it is looking for a coach, someone who can, hear what you're saying, hear what you're describing about your role and say, hey, you know what? It sounds like you're really good at XYZ. I can tell from how you're talking about this that you're really passionate about this part of your work. Have you thought about this other kind of role that would use those same skills, right? That maybe it is, inviting someone into your sphere who can kind of pull that out of you and then reinforce it for you when you need it.
Ladies, if you are listening to us right now, you don't have that network, you don't have that sphere that Tine is mentioning and referring to, I'm going to encourage you all to go to the show notes immediately, get her contact info, follow her on all of her social, and then reach out, right? Make the ask, maybe have the discovery consultation and see if it's the right fit. And for my guys, my fellas, my gentlemen who are listening to this episode, if your significant other, your sister or your mom is in need of that community, that support system, that coach, make sure you share this information with her, because we know that we don't want our sisters, we don't want the women in our lives to be hurting. So Tine, I do want to move to this idea of negotiation, right? So many of us have been taught, you alluded to it earlier, take what you're given, don't negotiate, and you continue to say ask, tell, but negotiation. Now we're getting into unfamiliar territory for many of us. What's one move? And I know that some of your clients are seeing double, triple their income salary based on one negotiation. So if we're starting this journey, maybe we're borrowing Tine's belief and okay, I think I do deserve more. I've looked and I do have the skills. I do have the background. I am qualified, but I don't know how. So we're going to get tactical with this question.
Yes.
What's one negotiation move that could add maybe 4 or 5 figures to someone's income, to a woman's income
Mhm.
in the year, in 18 months?
I mean, it's going to sound silly.
Break it down for us. Come on.
The move is to ask. The answer is always no if you don't ask. And it might be yes if you do. And so, I mean, I know I know that sounds basic, right? And I'm making it sound like, oh, it's just so easy to ask. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's simple. That the answer is to ask. How you do that is where the challenge lies. I think the first thing is, especially if you're talking about maybe a new offer, accept or get the information and then get off the phone. I always tell my clients, I say, thank you so much. I'd love to see a copy of the benefits in writing and get back to you. Because no matter what the offer is, you don't have to in that moment decide, okay, we're playing hardball. I'm going to come at you with this. Like, no, you have some time to think about it, strategize. You could even write out what kind of phrasing you want to use. One big thing I always talk to folks about is treating the negotiation as, instead of a me versus them, it's a collaboration. I'm so excited to bring XYZ to your team. And, what I'm seeing in the market is this. I'd love for us to work together to see how we can get closer to that. And maybe if it's not on salary, maybe we can talk about PTO or a work from home stipend or tuition reimbursement, right? There are other budgets where this money comes from.
Right.
But when you're making it into a team effort, now it's not me up against this corporation. Now it's, how can we work together and get creative? And then you're showing them, I'm willing to be flexible here. I'm interested, but I want to make sure that this is fair for both of us.
All right, Tine, here's where we're going. We're going to some of your personal experience, having lived this out, but then also as a coach and then an international speaker when you're on platforms and stages. Someone comes to you or they're in the audience listening to Tine Zekis today, maybe on this podcast, and they're in a position where they have a job, they have a career, maybe they are a high school math teacher today, right? And how do you help someone decide in pushing forward and asking for negotiations and increases versus doing as you did and making a complete career pivot? Because they're not the same thing, right? Sure. I could ask for more money, I could ask for a raise, I can negotiate, but still be miserable here. What are some things that you're having your clients or someone in your audience as an attendee consider before making those decisions?
Absolutely. It's always going to be like a cost analysis, right? Like cost benefit analysis, right? Am I enjoying this work? Am I happy with the people I'm working with?
Hold on. Are those, even with your intellectual background, right? And being engineer and being educated, is liking what we do and enjoying our coworkers, is that still a big part of that analysis in your opinion?
It depends on what's most important to you. If it's, I'm going to go from 9 to 5, I'm going to put my head down, I'm going to do the thing, and then I'm going to go home, and with that check, I'm going to do the things I'm passionate about. I'm going to take care of my family, I'm going to have my fun. You can do that. But if your day-to-day is making you miserable, if it's impacting your health, right? So many Black women are saying, okay, I got, a heart condition, or I got
and hypertension and
yes.
everything.
Right. If this job is making you unwell, mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever it is, then yes, then we need to go. And that doesn't necessarily mean pivot careers. It might mean, let me do the same role at a different organization. And even in that, a parallel move can still get you a bump in pay. But so I always want to, have folks think about, what are your values? What are the things that are the most important to you? And can you get those things from where you are? And maybe it's, okay, I think I can advocate for this. I think I have the pull here to ask for what I need. I need a little more flexibility because I got to pick up my kids at 3. Can I have that break and then come back from 4 to 6 or something? Is this something I can ask for? And I think they'll be responsive. Or go ahead and ask and see how they react. Part of why
because we do know the answer. If you don't ask, the answer is no already.
Exactly. And part of the benefit of negotiating, even from the beginning, from when you first get that offer, is that you're also getting a sense of, how does this organization respond when I advocate for myself? One of the things that people are the most afraid of is, what if I negotiate and they pull the offer? And like, that is real. It has happened, and it can be really scary. If you desperately need that job, maybe don't negotiate right away. Maybe take what you need, because I'm not going to be here and pretend that people haven't been looking for work for months, or that like this economy
100.
has been great for job seekers. So if you need the job, take it. But if you're already in a role and you're looking for something new, you want to have that information. If I negotiate and you pull the offer, thank goodness. Because what was it going to be like to work at a place that punishes you for advocating for yourself?
Yeah.
How were you ever going to get the resources you need? How were you ever going to get the promotions you deserved if, when you speak up for yourself, the response is punishment? And so I always think of that, as that first negotiation, as an opportunity to see, how are we going to be able to work together as a team, and what's this going to look like moving forward?
So I hear Tine speak, and I said, she has some nerve. I mean, like, who does she think she is? And there's this dirty word called audacity. And you love this dirty word, audacity. She is so audacious. So you don't just call yourself a business coach. You're not a business growth coach or a strategist. You call yourself an audacity coach.
Yes,
and I love it. And there's a big smile on your face right now. So even if you all are listening to this on a platform where there is no video, you can probably hear the smile coming through the speakers or your earphones right now. Let me ask you, Tine, what does audacity mean to you?
Oh, I love it. Yes. So audacity it's just the courage to do the thing. And when I say courage, I don't mean not being afraid. There's this quote I think it was January that I saw this quote, and I've been quoting it ever since. Faking courage and real courage are the same thing. So audacity is, even if you're scared, going out and saying, I deserve this, and I'm going to ask for it. Having the audacity to say, the first offer is not good enough, and I want to see if I can get more. Or the audacity to say, I'm not treated well in my role. I'm going to go find something better. I'm going to find a place that's going to value my skills, my contributions. A lot of places, even if they're still trying to do this DEI stuff, a lot of them are saying, we want that diversity. We want to have the benefit of those varied experiences. And yet, when you bring up an idea, you're turned down immediately.
Right.
So audacity is about knowing that you deserve to be treated differently, and then going out and finding a place that will treat you how you should be treated.
So since we're already here, let's go one level deeper or higher, however you want to qualify it. Why is audacity such a game changer for specifically Black women in corporate and business spaces?
Because it's the opposite of what we've been told, right? We've been told that like the work will speak for itself, right? The offer was a little low. It's not quite the title level you think it should have been, but you're going to get in there and you're going to kill it, and someone's going to notice and promote you and reward you for it.
Hold on, Tine, right there. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to make this statement. And Tine, I would love your input right there, because you're saying it's the opposite of what we've been told. And it's not always being told from the outside, from those who are against us. Many times we're hearing this from loving, well-intended people, right?
Yes, we're hearing this from our family members. We're hearing this from our friends. We're hearing it from the people at church. We're hearing it from our aunties that, again, be grateful. And if you go in there and you do the work will speak for itself. I've heard that phrase so many times, the work will speak for itself. No, you need to speak for the work. You need to tell people what you did, because no one is out here trying to see what you're doing. Everyone's focused on their own thing, right? And so, a big piece of it is advocating for yourself and letting the decision makers know what kind of work you've been doing, what kind of results that you have gotten, what's the impact of your work, getting into those more visible opportunities, right? So maybe it's seeking out, I'm going to volunteer to be the presenter at our demo, so that now people in other parts of the organization are seeing the work I'm doing. instead of, well, I'm going to volunteer to be the one who's taking notes. No one's promoting you for keeping the
Come
best
on.
minutes for the meeting, right?
Now, hold on, team. So you use it as an example. Are those real life scenarios that your clients have come in and you're asking them, so where did you volunteer? Oh, I take notes every meeting. I do agree. Is that what your clients are saying on
Absolutely,
the front end
absolutely.
of the relationship?
Yes, well, and it's women in general. We are often, because we are socialized to be caregivers, we are often doing those non-promotable tasks. I was on a team of engineers where the way that we distributed tasks is someone would say, well, who's going to do this? And we would just sit in silence until probably a woman would be like, I'll do it. And I was just like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to do it. And it was
Hey, so
physically challenging to
so
not say something.
even before you say I'm doing it, she like, not me. Like they be like, dang, okay, well, we just gonna start delegating. We know Teen is not doing this right here. She is not doing those menial tasks. She gonna, hey, you made it uncomfortable for everybody in there, ma'am. That's
and it's
awesome.
and it's not because I haven't done it. It's because I have done it. I have been the person who's running the meetings, who's organizing the baby shower, who's doing the diversity work, volunteering for to organize the event. And none of those things show up on the performance review as, okay, now you're ready for senior engineer, right? No, it's going to be volunteering to lead that project, volunteering to
Yeah.
do the demo, volunteering to be the one to speak to the stakeholders and
Now,
really be
Teen, right
seen.
there. Even when there's a risk of us failing, right? And because now when teens started volunteering, is it safe for me to assume that you didn't have all the answers? Maybe you didn't have all the confidence, but you said, listen, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm audacious enough to at least shoot my shot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I never have all the answers, right? It's about going out there and trying to build the support around you where it's okay if you fail. Someone's going to have your back, right? It's talking to your manager and saying, these are my goals. How can you support me in getting to those goals? What kinds of projects can you put me on that will
Mhm.
move me toward this goal? And who can you talk to in future meetings to make sure that I'm top of mind in those conversations?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here beyond the velvet rope with Tine Zekis, dropping knowledge gems. Make sure that you go to the show notes to follow her, connect with her. So, Tine, I did my research, I did my homework, and I'm going to say something that you would probably never say about yourself. So, in the reviews, the verified reviews, I've looked at and looked up, and then even reached out to some people. I keep hearing something about you and the results. So, one, you're honest. We get that part. You're transparent. But something that your current clients and past clients constantly and consistently say is that you've helped them double their income. You've helped them double and triple their income. So, congratulations there, ladies and gentlemen. She's the real deal. I've also heard and read that the biggest impact on the increase in their income was a mindset shift, right? It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't necessarily them going to school, certification, degrees, a mindset shift. What mindset shift in general are you seeing have the biggest impact on those clients that you're working with?
Oh my goodness, I wasn't ready for that. You're right. For me, I think
Now, hold on, wait. Before we go, do you understand the impact that you're making in these women's lives, in your clients' lives, and in the lives of their families? Like, are you grabbing that and saying,
oh,
"Man, I'm good"?
that's the reason I do this. I'm going to back up real quick. I started my business as a speaking business. I was trying to get out there speaking and I wasn't feeling it. And I talked to a coach and she said, well, what lights you up? And I said, getting Black women paid. And that is how the business started. So yes, I thrive on those success stories. And I had a former client who was giving me a testimonial and she was taking time out of her vacation to Italy. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. And she said, I wouldn't be on
Now,
this
hold on,
vacation
ladies and
without
gentlemen.
you.
Do y'all hear Teen? Yeah, one of my former clients, she did a testimony. She was taking time out of her Italian vacation. Come on, man. Those are the testimonials that we want.
Yes, yes. And so absolutely, I am I'm so grateful to be doing this work and I am absolutely aware of the impact excuse me, But the biggest mindset shift, and actually specifically for that client, the biggest mindset shift is the knowledge that you are deserving. You know, for her, she was in the nonprofit sector. So a lot of folks think you have to move into tech to get paid well. But she was getting contacted by recruiters for director level roles, and she just didn't think she was ready. And after our conversations and really getting that pep talk and that confidence, she replied to one of those recruiters, and in that doubled her income. She went from $97,000 to $197,000 because she decided I could do that level of work. Not because she went and got another degree or she went and honed her skills further, but because she decided she was ready. Or she did it even if she wasn't ready, right? But she decided
Even if
to go
not, she
for
said,
it.
I'm gonna borrow Tine's confidence in myself, and if it works, great. If not, I'm gonna go back and cry on her shoulder, and then we'll figure out something else. So
Exactly.
no, so that's absolutely amazing. So Tine, I do want to thank you for your time, but I am not going to let you go just yet. So I'm thanking you, so you can be like, okay, cool. I have a couple of more questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, there may be a high achieving Black woman who's listening to Tine Zekis speak, and they feel stuck, underpaid, and out of options. What do you tell her today?
Well, for a lot of the Black women I'm talking to lately, and when I say lately, I mean especially since the 2024 election, almost every Black woman I talk to is talking about starting her own business. Even the ones who we are in a conversation about career moves, she'll just
Mm-hmm.
add a little aside, well, until I'm doing my own thing. And I'm like, well, let's talk about that, right? For so many of us, we're learning that the job is not as secure as we thought. Even these government jobs aren't as secure as we thought. And we're realizing that we need to be starting our own businesses. Maybe it's a side business, right? Maybe it's not, I'm diving into this entrepreneurship thing head first and no parachute, right? But so many of us are realizing I need to at least develop multiple income streams to be able to secure myself financially. And so for that woman who is feeling stuck and out of options, I would encourage her to think about whether there are things that she does that are um, assets that she could put towards a business. Whether there is something she's good at doing, maybe it's contracting in similar work to what she already does,
Mm-hmm.
but something that she could turn into either a side business or a full-time venture, I think is a great place for women to be looking who are feeling really stuck.
Man, I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, we have just experienced something beautiful. We've experienced a treat. I know that I have. So in the show notes, make sure that you visit those, that you look at them, that you look at all of the resources that Tine has made available, as well as all of her contact info. And I believe we might have a link to the book there where they can actually get the book
Yes,
as
yes.
well.
Yeah,
Yay.
that's impostersyndromebook.com. I can give you the link for the
Wait,
show
wait.
notes
Say,
as
hey,
well.
scream it for the people in the back, Tine. One more time.
Impostersyndromebook.com. And that's where you can find the book.
ImposterSyndromeBook.com. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't even have to check the show notes for that one.
Yes,
So this has been a treat, but I want to do something if you would allow. Can we have some fun with some rapid fire questions, ma'am?
of course. Let's do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go with Miss Tine Zekis with the rapid fire. Favorite color?
Green.
Why?
I'm not going to say money. It's growth, it's
Come on,
nature,
look.
and it's money.
Growth, nature, and money, ladies and gentlemen. Favorite food?
Oh, jollof rice. It's Nigerian
Come on.
food.
See, look. She went straight culture. She said, listen, man, that thing speak to my spirit. I absolutely love it. What is your favorite book besides your own?
Besides my own book. Oh my goodness, there are so many. I think the one that really got me into starting my own business is by Bola Shokumbi. It's she has three, and so I'm trying to remember the name of the first one, but it's Clever Girl Finance, and she's incredible.
Good stuff. Now, what's one talent that Tine does not have that she wish she did?
Oh, a talent I don't have that I wish I did.
Now, unless you have all the talents you could possibly want.
I wish that I had. I don't know if this is a talent. I wish I had more patience.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
That's
Don't
not
do
a talent.
Hey, no, because here's what happens. If you ask for more patience, you have to be put in situations that require more patience.
I'm already in situations that require more
See,
patience.
listen, you said, Neil, I'm already stuck right here,
I
man.
didn't
This
mention
is not it.
I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old at home, and yes, so I think the a skill, something involved in parenting that
All
I
right,
wish I
so
had.
let me ask you a follow-up question to that. What's the biggest lesson you've learned as a mom?
Mm. I think the biggest lesson I've learned as a mom is that things that don't go how I expect can still be okay.
How are you doing with that?
I mean, I'm taking a deep breath even as I'm saying it. I am a recovering perfectionist, and you cannot be a perfect parent. You won't have perfect children. Your house won't be perfect. Your life won't be perfect. And so, yes, my biggest lesson has been that there are many right ways, and that we gotta take them as they come.
All right. So, Teen, what piece of advice would Teen today give to Teen at the age of 17? What does she say to her?
Ooh, 17-year-old teen. Um, I think I would tell her that the next decision doesn't have to be the final decision.
That might be one of the best things I've ever heard.
Oh, that's great. I mean, my career has
That's
taken
good.
twists and turns, and as we talked about, it was really hard to admit that what I had been building towards was not going to be it. And one thing that I encourage my clients who are working on a pivot or something is to sort of lessen the pressure. The next decision doesn't have to be the final decision.
All right, final question here. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, what do I want to be when I grow up? A millionaire.
Come on, girl, you are quickly on your way, but I just lied because I would be remiss if I did not ask this question. What does Tine Zekis want said about her when she's no longer here on this earth?
Mm. I'd like my legacy to be kindness. That I want people to say that Teen saw me and she was kind.
Simple and profound at the same time. Something that only the most educated amongst us can do. Tine Zekis, this has been an absolute treat and a pleasure. So let me tell you what I have the privilege of doing. I get to listen to this in the post-production. I get to go in and take my notes when I upload it, and then again as I listen to this episode on repeat. So make sure you go to impostersyndromebook.com. Impostersyndromebook.com. Visit the show notes to make sure that you follow, connect with Tine and all that she's doing. Ladies, make sure you connect with her to investigate the opportunities for coaching. Let's get the mental right. Let's make sure we overcome many of those barriers and obstacles that we might even be placing in our own way. So, Tine, I want to thank you, a big thank you from me and from my audience here at Beyond the Velvet Rope. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave you like I always do. And that is that I love you, God loves you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And until the next time you see me or I see you, don't be average, be world renowned. Peace.